Hello and welcome back to Women's Football Talk. Now, whilst we may be on an international break, we aren't going to be looking at the international fixtures. Instead, we're going to be looking at the WSL title race. So as it currently stands this weekend, Manchester United are top, Chelsea are second, Arsenal third and Manchester City in fourth place. And it is really close between the sides. So Manchester United currently sit on 41 points. After 17 games. Chelsea have 40 points but have played a game less than Manchester United, and then Arsenal and Manchester City both tied on 38 points. Again, Arsenal also having a game in hand to play over the Manchester side, so it's going to be a very interesting final 5 or 6 games for this side as we enter the busy month of this season. So let's have a look at each team's strengths so far. So Manchester United, obviously their main strength has been at the back, with Mary Earps keeping the most clean sheets to date with 11 clean sheets across the WSL. No keeper in the league has more clean sheets than Earps this season and has been really fantastic at doing so. Also, Manchester United at the back have been really benefited with Millie Turner being ever present this season. Obviously she had to miss the back end of last season due to illness, and then the summer arrival of Maya Letizia has been absolutely fantastic. She's slotted in really well and has looked like she's been at Manchester United for a long time, so she has been very impressive. Then of course if you look at Ona Badje on the right hand side, been ever fantastic defensively and going forward as well. Absolutely fantastic output for Mark Skinner's side, and that is what has got them playing so well, only conceding 9 goals so far this season from their 17 games. And then if we look on the forward front, their goals have been coming from a different array of players. You've had Alessia Russo, Leah Galton, Rachel Williams and Lucia Garcia providing a lot of the goals for Manchester United this season, which is something that they haven't had a lot of during previous seasons. They've usually relied on Russo, Toon, Galton to be the main provider of the goals, but the fact that it's so widely spread so far this season, scoring 46 goals, is definitely a big help to Mark Skinner's side as they look to progress and be that team. Chelsea's, obviously their positives is how fantastic Guru Wrighton has been this season. Obviously Sam Kerr doing what Sam Kerr does, and I think this is Lauren James's best season in the WSL to date. She looks a lot better and a lot solid as a player, and she's looking more like a completed package than what she has done in previous seasons, and that has definitely helped Chelsea there. And obviously with Emma Hayes' side not having a full 11 throughout, a full squad throughout the season with injuries to mainly Pernilla Harder and Fran Kirby, and then obviously other players dropping and changing through injury, it has been a tough season for her to have a consistent 11 to choose from, but they've done really well and looking really formidable in recent weeks. Then if we head across London to their rivals Arsenal, again another season under Jonas Eidevall looking fantastic. Obviously they've won the Conti Cup already, so that's great success for them, but obviously the big losses this season have been Beth Mead and Viviana Miedema, both out of the season with ACL injuries, but other players that have stepped up this season have been absolutely fantastic. You look at Frida Leonardson Mornham, who's been the star player of the season for Arsenal this season. She's been absolutely fantastic with her goal contributions and assists in both league and cup competition. So for me, she's been absolutely fantastic. And then in recent weeks, you look at the forward three of Caitlin Ford, Stina Blackstenius and Victoria Pelova. They've all really gelled well together. So there's the positive in that sense there for Arsenal. And Manchester City sitting in 4th place, again heavily reliant on Khadija Shaw with her goals, but you got to take the player who scores them any day of the week, and her season output has been absolutely fantastic. Elsewhere, I think another player who's been really kind of gone under the radar as such is how well Yui Hasegawa has fit into this Manchester City side, considering she was a summer arrival, and everyone was expecting a massive curtailment for Gareth Taylor's side after losing both Lucy Bronze, Kira Walsh and Caroline Weir this season. However, the players that have came in as replacements have done really well, and I think that's why Gareth Taylor's side are looking absolutely fantastic up until their most recent defeat to Arsenal prior to this international break. So looking forward at the rest of the season and the team's remaining games. So Manchester United, they've got to face Arsenal after their FA Cup game coming up straight away after the international break. Then they've got games against Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur, then they have the Manchester derby against Manchester City, and then they finish off the season against Liverpool. So 2 games against teams also fighting for the title, obviously. Villa shouldn't be an easy game considering how well Carlos Ward's side have done this season, definitely been the best of the rest. And then against Spurs and Liverpool, you would expect Manchester United to pick up 6 points from those 2 games. So it'll be very interesting to see how they do there. Chelsea's running, they play Leicester City, West Ham United, Liverpool, Everton, Arsenal and Reading. So only one team from the top 4 that Emma Hayes' side has got to face, which is obviously a big benefit for them. But the fact that they're still in the Champions League as well, and obviously have the 2 ties against Barcelona to come up in April, is going to be interesting to see how well that plays out for Chelsea going the rest of the season, and can they avoid having too many big injuries, or will they end up slipping away from the title race? Arsenal, they obviously, we said first up they have Manchester United, then other games they have are Everton, Leicester, Brighton, obviously that game against Chelsea, and then they finish the season off against Aston Villa. And then for Manchester City, they face West Ham, Reading, Liverpool, Manchester United, and they finish the season off against Everton. So that is the running for those 4 sides. It's going to be very hard to try and predict how these teams will finish. But if we look back at the teams' games earlier on this season and work out, okay, if the outcome of the game is the same, so for instance with this Manchester United versus Arsenal game, if it's the same outcome that Manchester United beats Arsenal and so on and so forth, then the top 4 actually wouldn't change. Man United would end up winning the league over Chelsea by 1 point, and then Arsenal would finish 3rd based on goal difference. What I did with that goal difference in that sense was work out how many goals Man City, if the results were the exact same, how many goals Man City scored, then they wouldn't have enough to overtake Arsenal. So obviously it's impossible to predict who will finish where, because you don't know what injuries are going to happen over the next couple of weeks, especially with this international break that we're on now, and the outcomes of the games. It's obviously very impossible to predict, but that is what I would expect. You would say Chelsea and Arsenal have that best experience of being the teams that know how to win league titles on a constant basis. Manchester United, this is a first for them being in a title race in April, and being the top of the tree in the WSL. That is obviously, they've done that when they were in the Women's Championship in that season under Casey Stoney. But it's going to be very interesting to see how each side fares coming out of the international break, and obviously with Manchester United having to play 2 of the top 4 compared to Chelsea only having to play 1 of the top 4, as the same with Manchester City. It'll be very interesting to see how those games do pan out for the rest of the season. If we was talking about weaknesses on these sides, for me Manchester United's weakness has been starting games quite slowly. It's been case in point over the last 2 games that they've played against West Ham and Brighton and Hove Albion. They started off quite slowly, but then in the second half the substitutions that Mark Skinner made has definitely been a big change. As you can see, the impact that Lucia Garcia has had on Manchester United, as well as Rachel Williams coming off the bench in those last couple of games. For me, that has been the big changing point. But yeah, how long it has taken them to get going in games could be a downfall, especially when they're playing against Arsenal and Manchester City. Chelsea's downfall, again, has only been in recent weeks. For me, it's how poor the back 4 has looked at times. Case in point for me, it was that game against Lyon. Magdalena Eriksson seemed to be making a couple of mistakes in that, where she didn't quite read the ball correctly, but is a good enough player that she can easily amend from those mistakes. And we don't know the full extent of Millie Bright's injury. She should be back fit post international break, but obviously we don't know that. Arsenal, for me, I can't really spot too many problems. Obviously their main ones with Miedemar and Beth Mead being out long term, they can't impact this rest of the season. We don't know full extent of Steph Catley's season, whether that is fully over or not, so that's going to be an interesting one. But can they keep the rest of their players fit going forward? I think he's going to be key for Jonas Sardav's side if they are wanting to win the league. And then Manchester City, again, another side, can't really see too many weaknesses in their team. However, should Bunny Shaw pick up an injury, would the goals dry up, or will City still find a way of winning their games going forward? That remains to be seen. But that is what I think the WSL title race is going to look like come the end of the season. Let me know in the comments who you think will finish where and who will reign victorious this season. And like I always say, make sure you subscribe to the channel with post notification bell turned on so you never miss a video of ours, and that you're following us on Twitter and Instagram for all the latest news and stories as and when it happens. And in the meantime, we'll see you soon.